Hello and welcome to Sunday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where this edition comes with a warning. So the puzzle on the screen is called Breakeven by Agent, and Agent's puzzles have been just a revelation over the last few weeks. Incredible stuff time after time. But one of our testers has tried this and sent me an email to say this puzzle's definitely a brilliant puzzle for the channel, but beware, you will get the puzzle wrong. So that sounds rather ominous indeed. I've read the rules. I don't see why I'm going to get this puzzle wrong, but apparently I am going to. Take that on trust. There is going to be a problem or two, I'd imagine, with finding a correct solution to this one. Although it's only got 3 stars out of 5 for difficulty on Logic Masters Germany, so I'm hoping we'll be able to find a way through it. We shall see. Some news before we kick off and I read you the rules. We have got our new book. We're going to have a Kickstarter for the volume 2 of Cracking the Cryptic's Greatest Hits. This is going to be, well, it's going to be a massive thing for us, and I hope for you guys as well. So keep an eye out. It's going to be a Kickstarter in October, and I'll be able to give you the date that the Kickstarter launches very soon indeed. And if you do have any puzzles you want to see in the book, then you need to be letting us know. Drop us a comment on the video and tell us what puzzles you think should be in that Greatest Hits volume. Next, happy birthday, Anastasia, from your husband George. George tells us, Anastasia, you are a big fan of the channel and you're going to be having lots of cake today, although inexplicably not chocolate cake. What's going on there? But I hope you have a brilliant day, obviously. Over on Patreon, we've got the new monthly reward coming very soon. This is the Duality Sudoku Hunt from the Sudoku Skunk Works. It's amazing. So look out for that, as well as the videos showing you how to solve September's reward. They should be there either now or very soon indeed. And what else? Oh yeah, and we're streaming tomorrow night. There is so much going on at the moment around Cracking the Cryptic. It is, well, it's a great thing to behold. We hope that you're enjoying all of the puzzle content that we're throwing your way. But today's job is going to be to solve this break-even puzzle, which comes with the warning. So let me read you the rules of this one. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Shade some cells in the grid such that all shaded cells are orthogonally connected and all unshaded cells are orthogonally connected, and no 2x2 box may be fully shaded or fully unshaded. So this is yin-yang rules, and that's, I remember that the last puzzle I've done on the channel by Agent was this incredible yin-yang hybrid where there was a line in the grid, and that, well, anyway, let me just remind you what yin-yang rules mean if you're not familiar with them. Two cells are orthogonally connected if they share an edge. So those 2 cells are orthogonally connected. These 2 cells are not orthogonally connected, although they would become orthogonally connected if I fill in that one, for example. Now, what we couldn't do, if we got these as being 3 digits that were of the same colour or of the same shading, we could not now make that purple, because that would create a 2x2 box of purples, and that's explicitly disallowed by the rules. So what I might do when I start solving is I'll run you through some of the tricks of yin-yang, because there are tricks that probably we're going to need to use. But let me continue with the rules. Digits in a cage cannot repeat and must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the cage. So normal sort of killer Sudoku rules, those 5 cells have to sum to 18, and what you couldn't do is that, for example. Because although these cells don't seem to see each other through the mechanism of Sudoku, in the sense they're not in the same row, column or box, they are in the same cage, and therefore they are not allowed to repeat. Now here is the complexity being introduced next. In cages, all shaded cells must contain even digits, and all unshaded cells must contain odd digits. So having worked out how the yin-yang works, we're going to have to use the shading in the cages to tell us something about parity. And I love doing puzzles based on parity, so this should be a lot of fun, I hope. And do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. But now I get to play. let's get cracking. And I think I'll start with the secrets I know about yin-yang. So first secret is that what you cannot do is have this pattern anywhere in the grid. And that is because a checkerboard does not work. And that's because of the requirement that we connect orthogonally all of the purple cells and separately all of the green cells. So if you try and connect these purples together, it doesn't matter how much of a circuitous route you take, you will inevitably prevent this green cell from connecting orthogonally with its friend, the other green cell. So that simply does not work. Let me reset the puzzle to get rid of the highlighting. Now, a corollary of that gives rise to a pattern that you'll find in the perimeter of all yin-yang puzzles, which is that let's imagine that cell's purple and that cell's green. Now, is it possible for this pattern to exist? And the answer is no. And it's for similar to the checkerboard reasons. In connecting this purple with this purple, I will inevitably prevent this green from orthogonally connecting to this green. It doesn't matter, again, it doesn't matter how complicated the route is by which I connect the purples together. This green, it can go on a merry journey, but it cannot connect to this green. And what that means is that in the perimeter of a yin-yang, you will only find basically two stripes of colour. You'll find, let's make that purple. So you'll find one stripe of purple and then one stripe of green. And that's it. We don't know where obviously the greens and the purples will be at the start of the puzzle, but we know there will only be one stripe of each. If we were to try and introduce another purple along the length of green, we would get into the problem of isolating greens again, because in connecting this purple with its friends, this green area is isolated from its friends, the other green area. So don't do that. So we've got to avoid checkerboards, make sure our perimeters are only two colours, and make sure there's no 2x2 boxes of other stuff, and then we'll be good to go. Anyway, I can't remember if I said let's get cracking or not. I probably did. Do have a go at the puzzle. The way to play is to click the link under the video. Now I get to play Let's Get Cracking, and that could all just be a repeat. Anyway, let's see how we're going to do this. How long is that? How big is that cage? 35 in 7 cells. Right. So there's another secret, isn't there? There's another secret about Sudoku I need to tell you about. Now, the secret is something I only tell my favourite people. But of course, if you're watching this video, if you stuck with me to 8 minutes, 8 seconds, you're definitely one of my favourite people. And the secret is that any complete column, any complete row, any complete box of a Sudoku will contain digits that sum to 45, because by the rules of Sudoku, a complete row of the Sudoku contains the digits 1 to 9 once each, and they add up to 45. But we can extend that logic a little bit in the context of cages, because cages can't have repeated digits. So imagine this cage was a 9-cell cage. We would know that its total would have to be 45 because it would contain one of each digit. Now this contains 7 digits summing to 35, so it's missing 2 of the Sudoku digits that must sum up to 10. So it has a 5 in it. That's all I can tell you as a result of that long-winded gibberish. Okay, how do we get started here? Well, the other cage that strikes me as potentially interesting is this one, actually. Because that's in a 2x2 arrangement. So what we couldn't do is have this a single colour. Because if it was a single colour, it would immediately break the rule about no 2x2 box can contain only one colour, only one shaded or type of shading, shading or shaded or unshaded. So this has got to have different... it's got to have different parities in it, doesn't it? Right. Okay, so it's got some odd digits and some even digits in it. But it's got to add up to an even digit, so it must have an even number of odd digits in it. So this cage has 2 odds and 2 evens, and what's more, not checkerboarded. So however that's not going to work. So this is going to have a stripe, like it could be green and purple, or it could be purple and green. But they're always going to be in dominoes in this 18 cage. So that feels like it's meant to be. Is that telling us something about the perimeter here? The 27 is quite interesting, actually, from a perimeter point of view. Because, that is interesting. This 27 has got different parities of digits in it. Now, how do I know that? Well, let's imagine for a moment we try and make all of those cells the same parity. Well, they couldn't all be odd, because the 5 odd numbers only add up to 25. That's what 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9 sum to. And they can't all be even. Obviously, they're adding to an odd number. So they can't be even for that reason. And also, there are only 4 different even digits in Sudoku, and there need to be 5 digits in this cage that are different, because it's a cage. So this contains some odds and some evens. And that must be true also of this cage, mustn't it? So that... hang on a moment. Does that mean I get to... I'm wondering if I have to shade these the same colour, therefore. Let me just think about this. So we know a 5 cage is either going to be made up of a 1 and a 4 or a 2 and a 3, i.e. the cells in it have different parity. So let's just make the top cell purple and this cell green. Now, does that... Well, okay, we know that there are different parities in this 27 cage. So I'm going to say now that you can't have that as purple and that as green. You can't have the green on the right-hand side of the purple, because then you run into exactly the problem I was outlining at the beginning. In connecting those purples together, this green will not be able to connect to this green. So actually, we can say immediately that's green and that's purple. And now, if that's the case, how do you connect these greens together? Well, you can't sort of go wending our way up there. They have to connect directly in order to make sure we've only got 2 colours in the perimeter. So I've all of a sudden got an enormous chunk of shading done. And I can do loads more shading immediately because of the no 2 by 2 rule. So that cell now cannot be green, that's purple, that cell cannot be purple, so that's green, that's got to be green for the same reason. We've got to avoid 2 by 2s. And this is very odd, because although I don't know whether purple is odd or even, I do know lots about the shading. I've got 3 purples. Oh, that's huge. Right. Okay. So I now do know what purple is, actually, because what is the colour of this digit? And the answer is purple. Because were this to be green, we're saying the 22 cage contains different parities. These 3 digits are different from this parity. So if these were all even, that would be odd, and therefore the sum of that cage would be odd. And if these were odd, there would be 3 odd numbers being summed, and that would sum therefore to an odd number. And therefore, once we added this even number in, we'd get again to an odd parity. So actually this has to be purple, and therefore purple is odd because 4 even digits only sum up to 20, 2, 4, 6 and 8. So this is 4 different odd digits that sum to 22, so it's not got a 3 in it. Isn't that beautiful? 1, 5, 7 and 9. That sells a 3 by Sudoku, because if this cell was in it, this cell sees the whole of that cage. So it cannot be a digit that appears in that cage, or it would rule itself out. If I make that a 1, you now can't put a 1 in any of those 4 cells. So it must be the other odd digit. This green hasn't connected to its friends, so that's got to be green to get it out. Green is even, so we've got 2 evens, 1 odd, and we're heading towards an odd total, so this has got to be even to make that work. So those 3 digits sum up to 12, and they are 2, 4 and 6, therefore. This is beautiful. I love this as well, because it's not, so far at least, it's not monstrous. It's just lovely. Now that cell has got to be green to avoid a 2 by 2 of purple. And now that's looking, that is trying to be a checkerboard naughtily, isn't it? It's trying to make me put purple here, but that would make a checkerboard. So that's got to be green. Green is even. So this is a, well, okay, that is not an 8, because if it was an 8, those 3 digits would have to sum up to 5 to make 13, and you can't make 3 digits, if they're different, sum up to 5 in Sudoku, because 1, 2 and 3 add up to 6. So that is 2, 4 or 6, which gives us a triple here. So anything else that's even in this row has to be an 8. Now, what can we do with this? We can... hang on a moment, let me think about it. So we've got a 12 cage here that's got an even in it. And we've got to end up overall on even parity. So these have the same parity, and they are not therefore even. Because if they were even, I'd have a 2 by 2 of evens again. So those are odd, and therefore that's even to avoid a 2 by 2. So these are odd. Sorry, I'm not quite understanding what that means yet. Let me think about this. Can't quite see how to... Does that have to be a 3 in here, is the question I'm asking myself. Oh, hang on a minute. I want that to be odd because it's... We know that odd is purple, but actually that's not in a cage. Let me just check the rules. In cages, all shaded cells must contain even digits, and all unshaded cells must contain odd digits. So that, right, okay, so the parity consideration only applies if we're looking in cages. So although I know that that is purple, I haven't actually specified whether purple is shaded or oh, hang on. I can now specify, because in cages, unshaded cells are odd. So purple is actually unshaded in this puzzle. And this cell is unshaded, but outside a cage, which means we don't know anything about its parity. Green is a shaded digit. So I don't know what that parity is, even though it equates to evenness when it's in cages. Oh, this is very confusing. Okay, this is very confusing. Now, I can, though, say something about a 13 cage. A 13 cage in 4 cells must have a 1 in it, because otherwise 2, 3, 4 and 5 add up to 14. Now, is that the same as an 18 cage? 18, yes, an 18 cage in 5 cells. If you didn't have a 1 in it, would add up to 20. 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 is 20. It's just the extension of this. So there is a 1 in here. And right, okay, so now I know the nature of the 5 cage, I believe, because if this was 1, 4, there would be no 1s in those cells. The 1 in the 13 cage would go there, and you couldn't put 1 in the 18 cage. So this is 2, 3. And that's unshaded, so it's the same parity as that one. So that's a 3, that's a 2. So now neither of those squares can be a 2 or a 3. So I want to say if that's a 1, am I not going to blow the total here? If I go 1, 4, 5... No, I'm not actually. Okay, sorry, forgive me, that's just nonsense. No, I could go more. I could go 1, 4, 6 here. And then that would be a 2. Hang on, maybe I can figure out the parity of this box then. So I've got an even digit in it so far. Therefore, these have to be... there has to be an odd number of odd digits in this to ensure that overall this adds up to an odd number. Odd is purple. Right, beautiful. Okay, so those cannot all be purple, because if they're all purple, I get a U pentomino of evens up there that can't connect to its friends. So that means that this... Oh, this is that's beautiful, actually. Yeah, this is beautiful because I now have worked out there is exactly one purple cell in this string of digits. But I've got to prevent there from being two potential even 2x2s. So if I was to make this purple, this would be an even 2x2 then. So that's not going to write. That must therefore be green. And the same is true here. If I make this purple, these both have to be even then, and that would be a 2x2. So I've got to put the purple in the middle and create a sort of H in the grid. Now that cell is not connecting to its friend, so that's got to be purple. What, 1? Right, where does the 1 go in my 13 cage now? There's only one odd digit in my 13 cage, and it is the digit 1, so it goes there, which means none of these are 1s. This is not a 1. There's a 1 down here. Right, these 3 digits add up to 12, and they're all even and different from one another. So these are 2, 4, and 6. This is beautiful, isn't it? It's just beautiful. It's the same thing that we had last time with Agent. It's just deduction after deduction, and they're all so pure and sort of clever. Now, the 2 in this column now has to be in this domino, so that's not 2. Those are not 1. So there's a 1 in one of these. Which means those two cells, right, okay. So this is quite small. Yeah, okay. So because I now know there is a 1 in this domino here is an absolute minimum of 3 and 5, which already add up to 8 of the 12 we need for this cage. So that square has got to be 2 or 4 only, which means 6 in this column is in this domino. Which means that's not 6, or it'd be 2 6s in the 13 cage. So that's 4, which means that's 4. Which means neither of those is now 4. Which means this is not 2 anymore, so that's 4. I've got this stripe of 4s going diagonally now. These, okay, yeah, these do now add up to 8, and they don't involve 1, so they're not 1, 7, so they're 3, 5, which means these don't have 5 in them, which means these do have 5 in them. Which means that square is 3. It's not 3. It can't be 3. So this square is set. Oh, I understand. Right, okay. This square is 7 or 9 by sudoku, because there's a 5 here, so it's not 5, it's not 1 or 3. Now if this was 9, these 4 digits would have to add up to 9, and you can't make 4 different digits add up to 9 in sudoku, because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10. So this is 7, which means these are not 7, which means these are not 9 now, because we've got this 5-9 pair already in this 22 cage. And therefore, is it... Oh, hang on. Hang on, I'm starting to understand why our tester was worried about this puzzle. Because I was about to say that this is even. And the... Oh, well, it is even. That is true. That is even. But what I was going to do was to shade it green. Now, that might not be valid. It's got to be even, because it sees all the odd numbers. It actually sees 2 and 4 as well. So it is 6 or 8. But I come back to this rule. In cages, all shaded cells. So outside cages, does that mean I know the colour of this or not? I think it means I can't assume I know the colour of this. I'm quite worried about this though now. Oh, what's that digit? Hang on, that's got to be an enormous digit. That can't be 1, 2, 3 or 4. Ah, have I broken this? No, I haven't quite. That's got to be a 5. It's the only thing it can be and leave enough room for this to work. So that's got to be 5. Because now I've got 12 of my 18 here, which means these can be a 1, 2, 3 triple. And the 2 of that must go there by the power of our old friend Sudoku. Ah, now hang on. Now right, well now there's all sorts going on. Now there's all sorts going on. That's 3, that's 5, all by Sudoku. This is 6 by Sudoku because it can't be 2. That's 2, that's 2, that's 6. Good grief. Good grief, I love this so far. What I love about it is it flows. Let me just double check this. Why have I got 5 here? What on earth have I done there? I think I was trying to type 1. 3 goes here. That should have been a 1. That's a 6, that's a 2, that's a 2, that's a 6. Okay, now this is adding up to the right number and it hasn't got 2 of the same digit in it. And I can shade all of these because they are in a cage. So those all turn purple. This turns green. Don't make a checkerboard. So here I need this to be green. But I can't... Oh, yeah, again, I was about to do it again. I was about to write that this is therefore, well, it was therefore 8, in fact, I can now see. But I suppose I cannot assume it's parity because it's not in a cage. This is difficult. Oh, where does 6 go now? In this box, 6 goes there. This is 8 and this is an 8-9 pair. No, it's not, because where does 8 go in this box? It goes there. So this is 9. This is 8. Now this column must be done now, isn't it? 1, 7 and 9 into these cells. And none of those are in cages, so I don't know if I dare do anything with them. These are 2, 3 and 8. And these are 4, 5 and 6. So these are 1, 7 and 8, which looks great. Oh, in fact that's an 8 in the corner, therefore. No song for you, naughty. Okay. So here I've got... well, if those were both even, they would be green. So can they both be green? If they were both green, that would have to connect up there. I'm not sure. I'm just going to try Sudoku on this column. I've got 5s, 8s and 9s. It's probably quite difficult here to make the totals work. Yeah, well, here's something. This can't be an 8-9 pair because then these cells would have to sum to 1, and that's not going to work. So there must be a 5 in there, which means this is not a 5. So this is either 5 and 9, which is 14, which would require us to make these add up to 4. That doesn't work. So it's 5 and 8 here, with a 9 at the bottom. 5 and 8 are of different parities, but we know we can't do checkerboarding here. Ah, hang on, I've had another epiphany. Sorry, I have figured out what the colour of that is, not by parity, but by 2x2-iness. If that was purple, that would be a 2x2 of purple, so that is green. But we know, I know that this, well, I know that these add up to 5 now, don't I? Because I can't repeat 8 in there for as much. I also need 5 more to make 18, so this becomes 8. And either do... Right, so these are different parity, these are different parity. So that means I've got horizontal stripes. Oh, right, so that's not green. Yeah, this is lovely. This is really clever. If this was green, the world would be broken because I'd have a 2x2 of green at the bottom. Therefore, that's purple. This is green. We know that purple in cages is odd digits, so this is 5, this is 3, this is 2, this is 8. This is now not 5. This is not 9. Can I do better than that? Quite possibly. Oh, this is... I'm finding it very hard to resist filling in these digits like this. Like that, I want to make that green. Is it? Can I make it green? Is that? I don't think I can make it green, even though I'm desperate to. I think I've got, right, what I've got to do is get into my head that outside of cages, I'm only allowed to do yin-yang. I'm not allowed to do parity. Right, that is the law I am now going to live by. Outside of cages, I only allow myself to do parity. No, to do yin-yang. I said in my brain I knew what I meant to say, and then I failed to say it. Right, good grief. So what is it that I'm meant to do next, I wonder? Well, I will do sudoku for a change on column 5. Where do 8 and 9 go there? They have to go in those two squares, and I've got a 9 there. So that's a 9, that's an 8. Now these squares have got to be 4, 5 and 7. And that's a 4, therefore. I'm not doing anything colouring. I'm doing no colouring. I am not doing colouring. Now these squares now have to be 4, 6 and 7. Right, now some of these, or one of these, is in a cage. So I would be allowed to think about, if this was of one, only had one option, or one parity option, I could colour this one. These are 1, 2 and 3, I believe. That's not 2, that's not 3. Bobbins. That one's quite low. Oh, wait a second, that is in a cage. Hang on, that is in a cage. So I can use parity on that. That is even, and yes, it's even in a cage, so it's even, so it's 2. That means that's 1 and that's 3, and they're in cages, so they are odd and they are purple. Right, so this isn't 1. 3 is living in a home in the 27 cage, that seems to have lots of, or too many low digits in it, but I'm just going to check this column. 6, 8 and 9 up here. So what can we say about that? That's not 8. That's not 6. And none of these are in cages, so we're not allowed to do any shading unless it's yin-yang driven. Right, those digits now are 6, 8 and 9 as well, I think. So this 35 cage, we looked at this at the beginning, it's got to be missing 2 digits that add up to 10. Now, it's got a 1 and a 3 in it, so it must have a 7 and a 9 in it now. That could be the 7, that could be the 9. Okay, that's probably not difficult. So, but that means it's either missing 2, 8, or it's missing 4, 6. If it was missing 4, 6, I'd know this was a 7. Oh, yes, okay, I've done it. Right, where do you put 2 in that cage? The answer is, I think, nowhere because of these 2s. So that means it mustn't have 8 in it either. So that's not 8. Still don't get the parity of it. It does have 4 and 6 in it, so I don't know what this one is. Oh, bother. I must be able to do something better than this with this. Alright, let's have a look at the 27 cage, just because I wanted to check that some... Oh, I can put 9 in here. Yeah, okay. There's a 3 in this cage and a 2. They add up to 5. 27 minus 5 is 22. 3 cells add to 22 in Sudoku. If they're different digits, you need a 9. It's either 9... In fact, this is all forced, isn't it? Because there needs to be a 9 in the cage now. That must go there by Sudoku. Which means that's a 9 by Sudoku, that's a 7 and that's a 1. So that ceases... Oh, this is beautiful. Now that I get the parity of this, which is even, which is green. And if that's green, I've got to avoid a checkerboard, so that's become green. Now this purple's isolated from its friends, so those become purple, and that figures out that little limb there. Even though these 2 squares were not, we couldn't use parity to do it. Ah, look, I've got a 4, 6 pair along here now. So those squares have got to be 2 and 8. But also, the way we were getting to 22 in the 27 cage doesn't use 8. So this must be 3, 6, 7, I think. And that's beautiful because it gives me a 4 here, a 6 here, a 4 here, a 7 here. There's a 6 looking at this, so this is 5, this is 6. I now know these squares are 1, 4 and 5. And so far I'm not seeing any naughty repeated digits. This can't be 1 or it would repeat. So it's 4 or 5. Okay. Can I use yin yang on this cell? Not sure. We may be able to if we can. Sorry, I'm not seeing it very quickly. Oh, look, that can't be 6. It would repeat, so that's 9. So these are not 9. 9 is an odd number, which is a purple number in this puzzle. Ah, now those 2 squares have both got to be green by yin yang. And this one and this one are both in cages. So it's so smooth. That's a 2 then. It's even and it's not 4, 6 or 8. So those 2 squares have to add up to 14 and they don't use a 6. So they're a 5, 9 pair and I can do it. So that's 9, that's 5. These are both in cages, so they become purple. That green has to get out. This green has to get out. It's just gorgeous. This must avoid a 2 by 2 by yin yang. I don't know if I dare. Well, okay, that's got to get out. That's got to connect to its friends, so that can come out here. I can see that wants to be green, but I don't know I can assume it is. What about the digits I've still got to put in the 35 cage? It's not got 2 and 8 in it, so it does have 4, 5 and 7. So these squares have got to be from 4, 5 and 7, and they are caged cells. So I can respect their parity, and therefore that cannot be odd, because it's definitely green. So green is even, and that must be a 4, which makes that a 5, that a 7. Therefore this is 5, this is 7. Therefore, this is not 4 or 5 now, so that seems to have to be 1. That becomes 4. This is 2, this is 8 by the power of sudoku. And that's not 7 anymore. So these, right, okay, so look at this column. We haven't got 3 6s and 7s placed, so that top digit is now a 6. Which means this is 3 or 7. And I'm sort of hopeful we're not a million miles away from solving this. Especially as that 5 7 are caged, so they're purple. Now this has to be green to avoid a 2 by 2. Avoid a checkerboard there, that's green. Avoid a 2 by 2, that's green. Ooh, so that purple has to get out. And avoid a checkerboard here by making this green. I've nearly... this green hasn't connected to any friends, so it comes down. Now I've got to make that purple to avoid a 2 by 2 here. And the purple we know must connect to its friends. So there we go. Yin-yang achievement unlocked. And... okay, so now our remaining use of the shading then is in this cage, isn't it? Because that has to be even. Because it's green, so that becomes 6. Which gets us the 6 and the 8 unwound, I see. And in this column I need 1s, 3s and 4s. So the 1 must go here. The 4 must go here. The 3 must go here. This is now a 5. That is a 1, I think. Why can't I get these 3s and 7s unwound? This 1 is giving me 1 and 7 over here. That 5 is giving me 5 and 3 there, which gives me 5 and 9 here. This is 8 by sudoku. That's 6, that's 9. Maverick's just taken off. I can hear him. Hello, Maverick. This is 3, not 7. Therefore, that's 3, that's 7. And this is 7 and 8. And I think we've done it. I think we have flurried to a finish. I'm going to click tick first. Yes. Okay, so it looks good. But what we've got to do to be sure we've solved it, there's a number of things I've got to check here. Firstly, in cages, I must have the parities correct. Which... I mean, I felt like I was doing it correctly. It looks okay. 22, yes, that adds up to 22. And then I mustn't have any 2 by 2s of any one colour. I double click, let me go to colour and double click. Yes, that's lovely. That sort of looks like a Joshua tree, doesn't it? Which is exactly what you want. Double click those as well. Yeah, so we have basically constructed a Joshua tree. I don't know whether... I think I have done a U2 type themed thumbnail before. So I don't know what I'll do today, but I love that agent. I think agents' puzzles are just a breath of fresh air. This one was just smooth from start to finish. And did I make a mistake? I probably did. I can't remember. But I definitely didn't try and get the puzzle wrong. I don't know if I have or not. You'll have to let me know in the comments. Do let me know in the comments. I do enjoy them normally, especially when they're kind, though. We'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.